welcome to Build with Rob. It is your host, Rob Dyrdek. You know what it is. I'm the CEO of the Dyrdek Machine. And if you don't know, the Dyrdek Machine is a venture creation studio where we systematically fuse art, science, and magic to manufacture amazing. We manufacture amazing lives and companies because together we're all entrepreneurs. We're all the visionaries of our own existence, right? And on this show, we talk to entrepreneurs and visionaries and do-or-diers that are just like all of us to talk about business, to talk about strategy, to talk about life, because it's what we love to do. We're all just trying to get better every single day. As always, wherever you listen to this show, give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a comment. Tell us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. Share your vision in the comments, We love to hear from everybody. If you listen to this show, you know how much I love to do it. It's something I absolutely get a massive amount of energy from. I get excited every time I get to step into this beautiful penthouse studio. That is the Build with Rob studio here in Beverly Hills. Because I love to connect and speak with entrepreneurs on all aspects of both their business and their lives, and just helping them with gaining more insight and shaping and evolving their way of thinking in any way, shape that I can. I hope that this does it for everybody that listens to the show. It's always, one of the reasons why I start the show off with sort of like a rant that I've been thinking about lately, because for me, it's this, I'm in this sort of perpetual state of always thinking about, what's working in my life, what's not working in my life, why are certain things the way that they are, and how can I change them? How can I make them better? Like, always almost looking for more clarity inside the clarity that I have already, and part of that is this sort of recent discovery for me, where I realized recently that every single thing matters, right? Like, and when you hear that, you're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, of course it does. Of course it does. Everything does matter. But I'm saying every single thing matters, right? Every single thing, where you live, what you think about, what you do, what you say, who you surround yourself, what you eat, the things you watch, the things you listen to. Think of all of that, right? As you begin to hear all of that together, it's all of these different things, right? But every single one of them is compounding in a positive or negative way, And when you begin to gain that awareness and look at life through the lens of like, man, every single decision, every single thought, every single interaction, every word I choose to say, all of these things, when you start looking at the power of what they do when they compound together, it really begins to make you take sort of a pause and think when you're deciding what you're going to do. And it really is an amazing sense of self-awareness to think like that can help lead you towards better habits and better decisions and all of these things that could compound you in a positive direction instead of a negative direction. When they say, oh, it rains, it pours, bad things come in threes, and it really is. Because you get into sort of this state of, you stay out later one night, have a few too many drinks on a night where you have sort of a bigger meeting in the morning, and then you're feeling less clear, you're a little more agitated, you're a little bit looser with your decision, and now there's a ripple effect on what that means, and now you're second guessing, you're stressing about the meeting. It's like all of that is compounded against staying out late and having a few too many drinks, which was just a single decision completely unrelated from your business meeting the next morning, where you made a hasty decision, which then created a ripple effect that was going to take so much work for you now to reverse. And now it's adding stress to your life. And now it's compounding into that stress is now when you go home and you're distant or short with your wife, you know what I mean? You're not there for you. It's like, think of just that ripple effect and what it was of just having one too many drinks on a night when you know you have a big meeting. Now, when you see that all connected, it is just an example of how making that decision, because there's first order, second order, third order consequences to everything that you choose to do, that when you begin to look at all of these decisions and that you decide to do in your life and how they're going to impact everything, with the idea that everything you do matters, it changes the way that you live your life. And I think that sort of awakening for me makes it incredibly easy to, for me, I'm kind of using like a general example of what I went through last night. I had a big dinner meeting, ran late into the evening, and I knew I had to get up this morning and shoot the show. I didn't want to risk going into the show without the clarity and the preparation and everything that I do to get ready for the show that makes the show better. So what did I do? I ate light. I passed on the wine while everybody was having drinks and having a real good time, and then that dessert plate came as the group of like 15 of all these investment bankers and, just wealthy people doing business thing, like let's drink and be merry. We're successful. Let's have dessert. I passed on all of it, right? And I passed on all of it, not on some like, oh, I'm so disciplined and it has the output of the health that I need. And what it is I know that something as simple as a dessert and glass of wine in the evening is going to affect my sleep, which is then going to affect the quality of my preparation, which is in end is going to affect the quality of this show and the experience that I have with the guests and the people that'll be on this show, and it's this really one-for-one easy example, I think, to follow. But, when you think about like where you live, I used to live in Hollywood and drive, down the 101 to East LA and get in a warehouse for my office. And the energy was just, always kind of grimy and a bit of a struggle, always in traffic. And my office was in this warehouse and I drove through some of the like more grimy parts of town to get there versus when I move to Beverly Hills and then have an office and a penthouse in Beverly Hills. Like my entire existence changed when I changed where I lived and where my environment was, of where I chose to do my work from and experience my life from, and all aspects of my life I have put, higher and higher quality individuals around me that continue to elevate and inspire me. I, build companies with people that inspire me. Take care of myself, take care of my sleep, balance my time. All of these things are taking into consideration that every single thing that I do matters, that I am a multidimensional being, and every decision that I make basically compounds and affects the quality of life and ultimately the quality of my happiness and my output and performance as an entrepreneur. And everybody should realize that every choice, every decision, every thought, everything you choose to do has an impact in some way or another on your life. So just a bit of a rant since I was living it so recently. But look, as always, we got a great show. Some really great entrepreneurs that we're gonna hear them business visions, and we're gonna see where their life is going. Let's get into it. Bryan Guadagno, welcome to Build with Rob. How are you, my friend?
What's up, man? I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Man, I can't wait to talk about the business that is It's Skinny. Can you please, for the listeners, lay out the vision for what you've created and how you see it changing the world?
Yeah, man. Look, the problem that we have in the mainstream pasta category is the only options available to low glycemic consumers are just, quite frankly, not there. Or you have Palmini, which is a great product. You have other kind of gluten-free noodles that are super high in calories and carbohydrates. So, there's a huge marginalized consumer base, really. 50 million consumers, 1 in 7 across keto, diabetic, paleo, anyone with Crohn's disease. So there's a ton of consumers that are just marginalized because they don't have an option for pasta. When I was, what kind of like gets me real passionate about it is I went paleo when I was I told you I was working in banking when I started my career. And I was drinking way too much coffee. I was not sleeping. I was working long hours. And I had a gastro problem. I went paleo for a year to clean it up. And I remember the pain of, walking down the grocery store aisle and choosing not to eat instead of eating something that didn't have a label that I wanted. When you start to think about eating healthy, you really don't stop. You can't unflip that switch,
Well, hey, that's not true. That's not true. Hey, so many people start and flip right back or do little in between. You know what I mean? Not many people can stay committed.
But you never stop thinking about it is really the point. Yeah. Like once you're aware, you can't become unaware. It's like, you can't close your eyes and be willfully ignorant. You could choose to eat a different way, but you're always thinking about it. And this is a category, like Konjac noodles are not a new thing. They've just been kind of foul, and they've had an odor. They haven't been super approachable. They needed to be prepped and cooked, and the texture isn't great. But we've really endeavored to make it so much more approachable and palatable by mainstream consumers. And we're putting the product right in the mainstream pasta aisle, so it's discoverable. Only about 20% of consumers know this category right now, and that's a problem.
Yeah,
because it's a real.
And more specifically, can you break down exactly what the product is and sort of the value props, if you will, sort of all the benefits of Konjac and what the product is?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so it's a root vegetable. So it's made from a product called a Konjac. It's like from the yam family. It grows in East Asia predominantly. And so it's an insoluble fiber. It's basically free from many things. We're not the typical healthy product. We're more of a carrier. We're free from a lot of things. So it's naturally gluten free. It's certified this particular iteration isn't organic, but we have an iteration that's certified organic. We're non-GMO. We're gluten free. Carb free. Zero net carbs. Really, we have 2 grams of fiber. That's it. So you can eat it on the paleo diet. Another iteration of the product that has tapioca instead of oats, you can eat it on the paleo diet. Anyone who's a low glycemic consumer, it's a really suitable alternative as a pasta product. It's pretty life changing if you want to build that back into your diet.
All right. Well, look, I think again, we just talked about the business from the vision, its potential, your background, and sort of the benefits of it as a pasta alternative. And to me, after enjoying it in the most delightful way, the most important thing to me, because I'm not going to go so technical into it, is I just didn't want it's like this gluten-free sort of low-calorie option to pasta. But it took me literally 2.5 minutes to cook a delightful meal. You know what I mean? It was the speed. Because the noodle, convenient. when it comes out and you pour it out, you just put it right in the pan. I got some delightful truff sauce. If you're familiar with Truff's pasta sauce, a little bit of truffle in there, mixed it in, and it's instant in one of the most unique ways I've ever experienced, right?
100%.
Especially from because when I start thinking about because this is one of those products where you have to make the market, right? There's a bunch of sort of, Miracle Noodle and Noodle Zero and Better Than Pasta. There's people that are on the Konjac sort of benefits, but they're kind of, I don't know, they're your brand is modern and new and delivering on sort of the way the consumer needs it. So it sits alone. But you still got to make that market, right? So when I think about the discovery aspect, when you're going to shop for noodles, is is discovering like a new noodle, like the direction that you're going, right? Or an alternative, right? Which I I agree that there's an opportunity there. But man, when I think about it next to instant noodles and top ramen and more other sort of easy to cook speed items, man,
Yeah.
it really sits alone. Because when you like look at like the type of tasty options where you can get a hearty meal in 2.5 minutes, like it's microwave almost, you know what I'm saying? It's like very rare that you could get something so healthy and so tasty and hearty and filling that is like eating a great dish of pasta in such a short amount of time. That I was really taken aback by how easy, convenient it was and how great it tastes, that I could make it my own with the sauce, if you will, versus necessarily all of the additional benefits that go into basically highly segmented categories like paleo. You know what I'm saying? Like just when I think about the potential of trying to make the market in a lot of different areas rather than just trying to win discovery in a place where they're already just going for regular pasta anyway, is just something that really struck me. But hit me with your question, man. I got some interesting insight, I think, on sort of your question as well.
Yeah, you're kind of leading into it. I mean, our goal is to stand out in retail and in digital. We've done a pretty good job of building a nice digital following on social media. We're getting some traction in retail. We have pretty good velocities at the store level. How would you think about, continuing to compete and remaining competitive? What do you think about that?
I mean, look, I think on the discovery side, we always look at packet, especially when the first time they're ever going to see it is at retail. It's sort of this idea of the capture, compel, convert concept, right? Like it's like what's going to make them grab this, right? And right now, you're hitting them with like 2 minutes, 9 calories, right? Like that's really your capture, right? Because Skinny is trying.
It's got shock value, really high shock value, right?
But that's what I'm saying. Like to me, like when we did, when we chose the name Pig Out for the pigless pork rind, it was like Pig Out's like, oh, what is this? Like Pig Out pigless, like it like pulls you in to then read like, oh, this is plant-based and gluten-free and all this like, non-GMO. Like you discover it through that. But it was the loudest sort of aspect of it was that sort of Pig Out like draw in, and again, I think the more that you lean into the speed and the calories, like, man, it's like 2 minutes, 9 calories, 2 minutes, 9 calories. It's like its value prop is bigger than going all the way down to like the other benefits of Konjac and what it even means and all this other stuff, like I do think it's leaning into understanding like the potential, and this is on a digital front, right? Like, because here's the difference, right? You don't want influencers to shoot a photo of the product, right? You don't want influencer marketing. You want user generated marketing, right? And you want to try anything and everything. Like to me, when I think about it, like you should hire a TikTok agency that's about, creating content that's like the hangry girl challenge, right? Like, oh, you got a hangry girl, like with it's Skinny, you can have her happy in under 3 minutes, right? And like, like it's that type of stuff. And then doing challenges of like seeing what the most dynamic, amazing dish that can be created in the shortest amount of time, right? It's getting this user generated challenge and this marketing content that ties back to what I would consider is a much like more viable and broader value proposition, right? Like especially on the digital side, on the pasta alternative side, and it sits in there. Like, you're always going to be, the challenge with being a pasta alternative will forever be taste and consistency of the noodle, right? And really,
sure.
Konjac is more like a rice noodle, right? And in the sense that it's just a bit chewier, like a rice noodle, and if somebody buys it with the intent of replacing their pasta, that's who you're challenging. You know what I'm saying? Versus like it's like this amazing, healthy alternative to microwave food or fast food, right? Like and you can make it taste as incredible as you want, depending on how you make it up. And you, as the consumer, show us how creative and endless you can be in your dish and your design. You know, it is just, when I think about like how many different potential ways that you can hammer home 2 minutes and 9 calories, 2 minutes and 9 calories, 2 minutes and 9 calories. Like it's to me, I still marvel at like, all right, let me give it a shot here and see what it is. And I'm like, this is incredible. Like
I love it.
Because even when I think about like, you know, the process of boiling water and getting noodles in and just kind of going through
Glorious. You know, so it's a deterrent, right? Like if you're, and that's really, I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head, man. I mean, how do you target a mainstream category or mainstream consumer with a product that's, you know, candidly specialty, right? It's not mainstream, but you hit them with this convenience, and then you have the added benefit of, it's actually free from a lot of bad crap.
Yeah.
And you can celebrate, like, you know, put whatever you want on it. Make that hearty bolognese, you know, have that pad thai or however you want to cook it. And I love the idea of the UGC content. That's definitely something we want to lean into this year.
Yeah, because it's like, you know, and to me, I would spend that raised dollar on like a really dynamic head of marketing, right? And somebody that has some experience, right? That understands sort of creating user generated campaigns and sort of pushing the storytelling across the different sort of platforms, you know, that has a little bit more storytelling experience rather than just a social media manager. You know what I mean? Like not all the way CMO, but not all the way on the bottom of social media manager. Like that's really sort of the sweet spot that I think could begin to tell the story in a lot of different ways over and over. You know, it's like, you know, when for someone like Lusso, right, where it's a $135 slipper, it's style and feeling sort of content creation and brand equity and brand value. In something like Jolie, where it's like water, it's this sort of continual, like, you know, show us your ugly shower head. It's like, this is what it's doing to your skin. Like there's so many different ways of user generated and funny content, and they do a weather report and all these different things. I think since you don't know where your cohort's going to come from, right? Because you want to say paleo, but really is that going to be, can you target them? Is that really what you're going to build a business off of? You're better off.
Nah, it's not.
That's what I'm saying. You got to shotgun this storytelling of the potential of this product to so many different people so that they discover it on social and they buy it in a store even, rather than necessarily converting them digitally. But yeah, that's just where I think, you know, I think it's just really compelling and has a ton of potential. It's just a matter of your crucial next step in this round is just those right bodies that can help create the right story and scale it so that you can build your early signs of having loyal customers is just like giving you, you know, the writing on the wall of what's potential if you scale the customer base, that they can be a lot more consistent and loyal based off of the unique job that your product's doing for them, you know.
That's a great idea, man. I mean,
look, hit me with your life vision, man. I'm so curious. You know, I feel like you're a pretty calculated, smart fella from talking to you here, man.
I try to be. Well, look, you know, so the life question is, you know, you've created a kind of a brand and a reputation for having great work-life balance, right? You know, thinking about how to integrate what you do on a daily basis with you know, your profession, your career. I love my family, I kind of want to spend some time with them. I definitely haven't cracked the nut on that. So, my question on life is just, what advice do you have for the rest of us in carving out, you know, the most important thing, which is time with family. I got 2 young kids. I want to spend time with them, and that's an area that I'm proactively trying to figure out.
And how old are your kids?
I have a 2-year-old, 2.5-year-old, and a 2-month-old.
Yeah. So look, I mean, this is here's the thing about it is like, to you could do something every single hour of the day, right? And so you already probably have your existing systems that you already manage. You probably get up at the similar time every day and knock out your emails and whatever right before they get up, and then you go through your process with them, then you break, the wife takes, you already have your system flowing, and your system currently, especially at that young age, it's always easy because it's less interactive, but you have to continue to design the time and then get better and better at living within that time if you want to do it, right? Because it's like for me, I still take my kids to school most days and pick them up most days, right? I get up at 5, kind of execute in the morning before I meditate, brain train, then spend a half hour with my kids before I go in the gym for an hour, right? And then I take them to school, right? And spend sort of an hour with my kids and my wife in that process to 9:30. I designed it, and then I just didn't compromise it. Right. Like,
yeah.
And
the lack of compromise, that's a huge component, right?
And for you, when you want to do it and it hasn't turned into your sort of habit, like you end up like you do it when you can. Right. Instead of and at first it's like, no, I got to make this non-compromise. I can't compromise. Now you're trying. And then eventually it's just how you live. Right. And if you apply that to all of your commitment to the time with your family, you get better and better at it over time. And it's also how you building a business is hard, especially at this stage. And the other difficult thing is what you're going to really run into is okay, I'm going to hire these people to take less of the work off of me. And then you're going to misfire on a couple of those. That's going to be even more work and and then you're trying to get them on board and get it to work. There's a lot of aspects of this stage before you kind of get to a sustainable stage. That's difficult, that you kind of have to sacrifice. But for me,
so if my mentality, if my mentality is right now, I'm just in a period of growth.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not doing anything wrong. I have the vision. Right. And there are times when I can do it. There are times when I just can't. Yeah. Right. And yeah, I am starting to gather some of that help, and, sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. Maybe it's just an acceptance, right? This is just the stage I'm at.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a little bit harder.
Yeah. And it's okay, I think, to accept it, but you can't let it become a thing, right? Because what you don't want to get to a point is where now you've built this expectation in those that work with you, built expectation in your partners, right? And then you've done that at the sacrifice of, oh, we're still growing, right? Because that I'm in a growth period is going to be for 10 years. You know what I mean?
I can tell my wife, it's just for another year.
No,
it's just for a year.
And look, and again, unless you design the path to sustainability, for me, I'll tell you what, when I did it, when my kids were born, I designed the time and didn't compromise it. I only worked within the time I allotted, and then I got more and more efficient at getting more and more done inside that alignment. I just got better and better at it. And that's the idea of hey, in the future is when I'm going to have that time, because the future never comes, especially when you own a business. Because then it's oh, we're scaling now. like once we scale, we're going to sell it in a few years. And then it's like, oh, it's not, if we keep going at this rate for a few more years, then we're going to do it. Like, and then the market turns. Okay, the market turned. We just got to get, if you don't design that balance into your life, and from the onset and get better and better at it over time, you will be chasing it forever. And then the damage is done. Rather than in my case, like, my kids can't even like this week I've just been at the office like more than usual, and they're just like, what is going on? Like it's like just having a little bit of not being there and sort of the same structure is like mind numbing.
That starts to feel weird.
And look, but
I'm picking up on though that it seems like you have a lot of grace for yourself to the extent that you do get pulled out of it because you do have this steadfast commitment to what your priority is, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and again, it's on you to design it and nurture it. Because, one of the great benefits of mastering time and designing it and then getting really good at living balanced is you live high energy and total clarity, but with zero regret. You don't look back and like even wonder about what you did over the last year or two because it was all done with such intention. Right. So
it allows you to be more present, right? And because that's key, right? Is being able to be present.
Right. And you're more present because you're more aware of not like working and then feeling the pressure of like, oh, I got to spend time. And now you're trying to like not think about work and try to be here type of thing. But, I think you're smart enough that you should think about how do I start designing it now and get used to sacrificing it on the business side first rather than looking at the opposite of let me sacrifice for now because I'm growing the company. But how do you flip that so you're adding more balance, putting more pressure on the work side so that actually is what you get better at, get more efficient on that side might actually be a great benefit to you. Well, look, man, it was an absolute pleasure. I wish you the best. I can't wait to see how this thing evolves. I really do think you have something incredibly special. And I will be whipping together 2-minute pasta when my wife is getting hangry to satisfy her, man. Trust me.
Yes. Yeah. And dude, I appreciate you having me on. I got an It's Skinny hoodie headed your way.
Look forward to it.
So you'll have that soon. Let me know if you want a large or an XL.
Hit me with a medium.
Medium. All right. Done deal.
I appreciate it, man. All the best. Sean Oshman and Just Candelaria. Welcome to Build with Rob. How are you guys?
We're great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, excited to learn more about Helmet Flare. Please lay out the vision that you have for the business that is Helmet Flare.
Will do. Probably starts from, you would know this from when you were a kid. Helmets were just kind of dorky and boring. And it's just hard to get kids or people in general excited about helmets because they haven't really looked that cool in a really long time. So that's a problem that's been rattling around in my head for a number of decades. And about 10 years ago, it occurred to me that it's not that difficult a problem to solve. We just need to find out a way to attach things to helmets to make them look cool. So this way you don't have to buy a new helmet. And ideally, you'd be able to interchange those different decorative attachments as your mood changed, or if you're hanging out with your friends, you guys can switch among yourselves. And, when kids were interviewed as to why they don't wear helmets, number one reason is because they don't look cool. Second reason is because they don't fit well. So, we have the option as a society, we could say, hey, here's a new law and we're going to use a stick and we're going to penalize you for not wearing a helmet. Or we can use a carrot and we can say, hey, let's just make the helmet really cool. Let's make it desirable. Let's make it fun. Let's bring joy to safety. And that idea rattling around for that long, I was running a different business at the time and, kept thinking about it. And I was just too busy with that other business. And upon selling that other business, bought a boat, went sailing around and still was thinking about this idea. And, when an idea sticks around in your mind for long enough, you know that it's something that needs to happen at some point. So a couple of years ago, that's when I began in earnest, and Jess and I have just been banging away at it ever since, and tons of R&D and testing of different materials, different shapes, different methods of attaching things to helmet in a way that is not going to hinder the safety of the helmet, because that's the tricky part with helmets, is that it is a safety device. So you don't want to mess with its function. But you do want to.
Is that sort of like the concept of where the magnet comes from, to where like if you were to hit it, still would break? It's almost like break away is sort of the concept, rather than it's almost like if it was stuck on there, it would like kind of like make the helmet kind of twist your neck or something. Is that sort of the vibe?
Yeah, you nailed it exactly. So I mean, that's the trick, is that when helmets are tested in order to get certified, they'll do crash tests with them. They'll do roll tests with them. So you kind of don't want to mess with that, because they've already been certified. So you want to have it be as small as possible. So that's why we designed those magnets to be pretty short little discs, and a little bit tall, a little bit fatter than a quarter, about the same diameter. And then this way you can interchange the tops. And yeah, if you have a wipeout, they'll pop off, and you could just go pick them up and put it back on.
I think that's a pretty interesting value prop, like because you got to think there's all of these other sort of like rascals and cred heads, and there's all these like sort of fully designed out crazy helmets, like, and it's almost like, hey, that's not the way helmets were meant to be, where we're still allowing helmets to be exciting, fun, and cool, but still under conditions they deliver on the way that they were designed to be delivered, rather than like on a rascal, you're going to, slam your head on some spikes, is a pretty interesting sort of sell, if you will, as it relates to, the customer versus consumer, right? Because, I guess my, when you look at it in that range, have you found that your initial sales are coming from parents for kids, or like older kids? Like, have you been able to tell on kind of who your core customer is right now?
That's a good question. And when we started this project, we had figured that the largest consumer market for this would be parents for kids. What surprised us is how many adults are super stoked to personalize their helmet, because, no different than a cell phone case, which is unique to you. Or, your clothes or the hat that you wear. We're all a personal brand walking around, and especially with all this TikTok and Instagram and all this, people's personal brands are just so important. And we've seen power sports folks pick this up really, really strong. And, the kitty ears have been one of the best sellers. Large black horns have done really well. And so it's exciting. I mean, we've got 3 verticals that we're really aiming at. We've got the power sports market. We've got bicycle market, and then we've got the snow sports market. So that's those are our big 3. So that's why we try to, if you look at our Instagram, we try to feature our customers and show how they're showing their personal flair. And, because we don't tell them where to mount it. They can mount it wherever they want, and they can orient it however they want. So it's been pretty cool to see just what people do with the product, because they have creative license.
Now, have you been selling it at retail, or you've been primarily Amazon has been the core of the business, or have you guys opened it up to retail?
Yeah, so the past year we've been selling direct to consumer. About 90% is on Amazon and 10% on our Shopify account. Yeah. And right now we're just pushing into retail.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's one of those things of like how it's tough to, like, Amazon, it can be discovered, right? Like when you're searching for helmets and kids, like you can see like, oh, this would be cool to add to it, right? Because really it's like, I don't know if it's you on Amazon, you're probably not searching helmet accessories. You're just searching like helmets, kids, and it like pops up in there and it'd be like, oh, this would be sort of great. So there's a lot of organic discovery. And I'm sure you probably tried to do like ad spends and target like moms and, whatever it may be. And just impossible to convert on your own channel because of, I just think that the nature of like when you would be purchasing that product, you know what I mean? And where discovery of this is so important, you know? So hit me with your, you know, I have some thoughts about that, kind of continue with that from based off of sort of your business question, man. Hit me with your business question.
Sure. Well, our first question, having to do a little bit more with the business side, is do you feel as if it makes more sense to grow a business organically based on its own revenue and its own profits? Or does it make sense to go down the path of taking on investor money and really going for that just mega fast growth, that kind of 10x goal? I mean, it's kind of a philosophical thing, but just curious about your thoughts on that.
Look, I do it every way, right? Because it's what I do, right? Like, and I do it depending on the nature of the founder, right? Because not everybody, it's like the high growth, raise capital, grow the business, like build it to revenue and take a loss, keep raising money all the way to exit. Whew, those are so hardcore, and they're mainly for those with financial backgrounds, right? That are really like found a product that has high growth potential, and then know how to navigate the complexities of everything that goes into high growth speed, from hiring and manufacturing and distribution, and just managing that, especially in consumer products where it's so capital intensive. Boy, that's a tough world. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, guess what? You got all this money in there, and then you're not growing. You still got to grow more money to try to, now you're getting diluted down. Like now it's like, and then like, you know, then you go to over the edge to where like you don't have the growth, you've been diluted, and now you got nobody else that wants to support it. And it eats itself alive trying to be that high growth company when you could have did it yourself and had a nice, sustainable, profitable company that may not be acquired, but would be a great business for you. And I think it's 100% dependent on what you are the most comfortable with. And I, you know, even though I dance with the devil in growth businesses, like I would prefer to organically build a company that's profitable, sustainable, and growing over time, and then sell it. I can tell you, as the greatest of greatest feelings is launching a company that works, that's profitable, that grows, and then you sell it where you never even have a hiccup, right? Like it's very rare, but when it happens, it's like the ultimate in business magic, you know. But it's rare. And when I look at like a product like this, like I don't necessarily believe that it's a high growth type of business or that it necessarily needs to be, because when I think about like your potential of discovery is if you just start like identifying all of the places that sell helmets, right? Every single place that sells helmets, right? From REI to Walmart to Dick's to like whatever it is, like Target, you basically go in and look at every single one of those retailers. And then I think that you've got to design the entire product, the positioning and everything to sit directly next to the person buying the plain normal helmet, and really do all your testing and everything around this idea of like, okay, whether it's a mom with their child or a dad buying it for themselves or somebody going in, they're all going into the helmet aisle. And if the way you merchandise the product is to be like, well, if you're buying that helmet, don't make that helmet look boring, right? Like you're pulling people off and then they look at this like, oh, perfect, I can take this and now make it cool and fun myself. I think that's a metric driven business too, right? Because the moment you can say, hey, this is how we positioned and merchandised ourselves next to all the Pro-Tex and Dick's Sporting Goods, and here's our how much, you know, per dollar, like it's only a half a foot of space vertical here, and it's delivering on the same amount of space as the 2 feet you're given to regular helmets. Like there's a science in how they actually even look at the value of their like per square foot in those stores, that you could like all you got to do is win in one. And now you can go to every single person and be like, here's how we perform with this retailer. This is what we could do for you. And it's almost like one good retail partner and sort of continuing to sort of modify and optimize how you position the product and the packaging to get to this higher conversion of where every time someone buys a helmet, or call it every 1 in 5 helmets buys helmet flare to spice it up. You know what I'm saying? It's like, boy, turns into this super simple, beautiful business that you could create. You know what I mean? And yeah, you got to kind of learn that and navigate that. But boy, that's pure. If you get that to work, then it almost automates itself, right? Because then it's just a matter of like, okay, maybe we head over into like road biking bicycle helmets, and instead of having flare, we have reflectors. Right, we have like other lights or LEDs, like things that like are needed for.
Oh, you want to see something?
Oh, you already got it. Here it comes. Light it up. Oh, you already.
See, you said it. Great minds. I got you. Okay, so this guy here, this is our first ever prototype of a light up.
Yeah, see,
helmet flare. This is a magnet activated.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just take it.
Yeah. I love that it's even on the road bike hat just the same way. You know what I mean? Look,
right?
Yeah.
It's like you just read my mind. I love that.
And again, I think when you've got something like this, like when you got something smart enough to where you have a unique pathway and how you can even like open up how it scales a little bit, like and you can make this business a lot simpler by seeing it and setting your goals behind like, man, we just have to win like in a metric driven fashion for a retailer, and then repeat that for every place. And then you'll literally know that like, here's every single retailer that sells helmets. And our goal this year is to get 3 of them and 100 doors, right? It's just and then now you're looking for sell-through metrics. And then if you work for them, like, and you do everything, you keep modifying and doing everything, not try to get to like, we're going to go to all of these 1,000 retailers. It's like, how do you pick 1 or 2 and go win with them and do all your learning early so that you can actually scale to all these bigger ones and not have to learn, not get an opportunity to get into a Walmart and then not have refined sort of the positioning of the brand and how you merchandise it that drives conversion. Because, I can tell you, many a times I've brought a product into Walmart and been like, this is it. We're going big. And it lasted 3 weeks. You know what I'm saying? Because it got in there and it was positioned wrong and didn't work and didn't sell through. And their shelf space is so valuable. They give you a few weeks to turn over a percentage to show some potential, or they move something else in very quickly. And it's happened to me, a handful of times, and it's always painful. But it's this idea that if you narrow down the idea to that level, you may never need to raise money. And you can grow it and make it highly profitable and easy to manage and run for the long term, which is the most beautiful type of business, right? Where you just have, a core set of retailers that the product kind of sells itself, sitting next to other products that sell itself. It's like the core helmet. It's not like they're redesigning. Yeah, they add some different helmets here and there, but for the most part, like you say, they're black, white, and gray, and they're the ones that sell the most, and you're just piggybacking on spicing those up a little bit, right? But you're also saying, hey, we're not compromising why you bought this in the first place. Where, don't worry, like Stacy's unicorn horn's gonna pop right off. It's gonna pop right off if she goes face first to her forehead. You know what I mean? And I think that's just really, really interesting and a simple way to set your goals and create the KPIs and what you need to learn and get best at to go and win at, instead of trying to sell ads and build a deep social following and and trying to create content and figure out even getting Amazon to even convert is difficult unto itself. But since you're sitting next to helmets and do your keywords that tie perfectly to when you search helmets, and this thing ends up in the same zone, is another way to win. But I think it's certainly, there's a clear path here for you to find that sustained success. And as big as it could possibly be, that you could eventually sell to one of the main manufacturers if they just want to capitalize on another revenue stream, but the beauty again, but if you can build a business that's sustainable and profitable, there's a lot of people that will buy it, and then you always have the leverage, because it's like, why would I sell it if it's profitable and sustainable? You know what I mean? It is the ultimate in the business game, Okay, hit me with the life question, man. It's somewhat similar, but I'd love to hear your sort of take on it too.
What do you do that's most important to energize you in order to have the energy to do these business projects?
Yeah, and look, clarity gives me energy. You know what I mean? When you know what you're doing each day, and then you have clear goals, and then you're evolving and growing towards those clear goals that have a clear output, boy, you get excited. And really I apply sort of all aspects of my life of intention to that. But man, in business, when like the harder you work and like that when you get up, the work that you put in is going to lead you to the goal that excites you, like, man, that's where that energy comes from, right? Like that energy has to be created, and it's not, you can't get up and yell at yourself and be like, you need to get into it today. Today's the day that you're going to be psyched. You're going to push this helmet flare to the next level. No, it's like when you get up and know, like, man, I'm meeting with these 4 retailers, and like if they, and I'm building this presentation to share with them, and I've refined even our metrics of how we support shelf space for these retailers. When they see this, their mind's going to be blown, and then they say, we love it. That's like where the energy is. Okay, we got to sort out to get more capital, to do more manufacturing. Get ready, Dayton, Ohio. We're coming for a mega order. It's like that's that natural energy that comes with having that clarity and deep understanding in what you're hoping to achieve, and then moving towards it, rather than, it's hard when you're running a business, trying to find the customer, always trying to search on what the right strategy is. Like, all right, let's try this. Well, maybe we let's go into this category. When you just can't find it, it's actually draining. It's actually the opposite, right? Because then you got to force yourself to like, okay, I got to try something new. Is sort of the aspect of it that, I think is just the nature of a lot of people's ideas, right? When you have an idea that may be more complex, or the customer's not highly defined, and then sort of where you can potentially find growth isn't clear, and maybe not at all, is where, man, those are soul suckers. Those are soul suckers. So, you seek clarity in life, and you live with intention, and that's where energy is born. Then you love it, and there's passion in there. You know what I'm saying? Or clear purpose. Like, so you got the energy and this clear purpose. That's where the passion is, right? You're like, oh, this is amazing. You can really build that energy for something. And look, I gotta say, another amazing connection beyond Dayton, Ohio, where I'm from, but the great Chris Cox designed your brand and logo, which the new brand refresh. You got one of the best. Look, for anybody out there who just needs a great graphic designer, change the thought.us. .us. Chris Cox is an amazing designer, designed a ton of different stuff for me. He designed your guys' new rebranding, did an amazing job, and it looks amazing. I love the much more excitement that comes with the character. But look, I really think you got something special, and I think if you focus in and on that retail and owning that, how do you like really connect with when they buy that helmet, you buy it? I think you're gonna win and have a great business that you can grow to whatever scale you're most comfortable with. You know what I mean?
Well, what's exciting, what you mentioned about having that enthusiasm about a product and about the business. What's cool about this, I mean, first of all, we get to go out and do fun stuff, and we call it work.
Yeah.
We get to go on the slopes, and we're wearing ridiculous stuff. So, we're going down and we're like, hey, look, we got kitty ears on our helmet.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, the number of people that just stop us. And it's funny, if you see a product you think is cool, you might just go, hey man, those are cool kitty ears.
Yeah.
And then you just go ahead and ski off, right? No. That's not what happens with this. What happens with this is that people see it and they go, that's amazing. Where do I buy it?
Yeah.
So we were observing this when we were prototyping and we were out doing field testing. This was 2 years ago, when all the prototypes that we had to take to Steamboat and go on the slopes, they were all 3D printed. But people were just so amazed and so excited. So, for us, as far as just, keeping that motivation, keeping that excitement to keep doing this project, a lot of it actually comes from potential customers because they see it and they're like, I want that.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to bring joy to my life. And for us, I mean, if we could bring joy to people and allow us to just manifest this idea and bring it into the world, kind of like giving birth to something. I mean, that's like a win-win-win-win kind of situation.
Look, you don't need no energy. You're energized. You know what I'm saying? You don't need, and I can see it in the videos. You know what I mean? You guys are riding bikes. We're on the ski slopes. We're on a boat. Let's go. What's up? You know what I mean? So look, you already got the energy. And look, that means you got the right idea at the right time. Now get that